The Silent Invasion. Commander Ilara Chen stood at the observation deck of Proxima Station, watching the binary sunset cast crimson and gold across the colony's agricultural domes. After 8 years as military liaison between Earth and the farthest human colony, she had grown to love this world, with its rust-colored skies and hardy settlers. 15,000 colonists had transformed a barren planet into humanity's first interstellar success story, and Ilara felt pride in what they had accomplished so far from home. "Commander, we're detecting anomalous readings at the edge of the system." Lieutenant Marcus Wong's voice came through her comm unit, breaking her moment of peace. "Define anomalous," Ilara replied, already moving toward the command center. The corridors of the station were utilitarian but decorated with artwork from both Earth and local artists, a blending of two worlds that had become the colony's signature. Multiple objects decelerating from FTL travel. They don't match any known human signatures. Wong's voice had the controlled calm of someone trained to handle emergencies without panic. In the command center, screens display the approaching objects. Sleek, obsidian vessels with no visible propulsion systems. They moved with unnatural grace, like predators stalking prey. "How many?" Ilara asked, leaning over the sensor station. 47 confirmed contacts, varying in size from Corvette to Dreadnought class. Wong responded, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. No response to standard hailing frequencies. Governor Isabel Ramos entered the command center, her usual diplomatic composure replaced by barely concealed concern. "Commander Chen, what are we dealing with?" "Unknown vessels, Governor. No identification, no communication." Ilara brought up the colony's defense readiness on her display. 1 military frigate in orbit, 12 atmospheric fighters, and a ground-based ion cannon. Not enough for what she was seeing. "Could it be first contact?" Ramos asked, the hope in her voice betrayed by the worry in her eyes. "If it is, they're not following any of the protocols we established for peaceful contact." Ilara tapped her console. "Colonel Diaz, scramble your fighters. Defense posture Alpha." "Copy that, Commander," came the response from the colony's military commander. The first attack came without warning. A focused beam of energy, unlike anything in human technology, lanced from the lead alien vessel and sliced through the orbiting frigate. The ship barely had time to transmit a distress call before it disintegrated into superheated fragments. "My God," whispered Ramos. Ilara gripped the console edge. "Planet-wide alert. All civilians to shelter immediately. This is not a drill." The next hours passed in a blur of desperate defense and systematic destruction. The colony's fighters launched but were picked off with effortless precision. The ground-based ion cannon managed one shot that glanced off an alien vessel's hull before a retaliatory strike reduced it to molten slag. By nightfall, the colony's surface structures were in ruins. Communications arrays, power generators, and transportation hubs had been methodically destroyed. The aliens, dubbed the Void Collective by the colonists for their black ships and silent, implacable advance, had begun landing ground forces. Ilara led the survivors to the emergency bunkers beneath the colony's main settlement. Originally designed to withstand Proxima's occasional radiation storms, they now served as humanity's last foothold on the planet. 3,000 colonists had made it to safety. The rest were either confirmed dead or missing. Colonel Diaz found Ilara in the makeshift command center they had established underground. "They're not just destroying," he reported, his uniform torn and stained with blood from a wound on his shoulder. "They're setting up structures of their own. Some kind of processing plants." "What are they processing?" Ilara asked. "Our atmosphere, from what our remaining sensors can tell. They're increasing nitrogen levels, adding sulfur compounds. They're terraforming it to their needs." Ilara felt ice in her veins. "This isn't random. This is colonization." Dr. Sanjay Kapoor, the colony's chief scientist, joined their conversation. His lab coat was dirty, and dark circles ringed his eyes. "Commander, we captured something you need to see." In the makeshift lab, Kapoor showed them footage from a drone that had managed to record an alien outside its ship. The being was tall, with gray-purple skin that seemed to shimmer with an iridescent quality. Its 4 arms moved with precise coordination as it set up equipment. Most disturbing was its face, lacking any recognizable features except for clusters of sensory organs where eyes might be. "We've analyzed their communication patterns," Kapoor explained. "They use some form of electromagnetic signaling. Here's the interesting part. Our standard communication frequencies seem to cause them distress." "Distress?" Diaz asked. "Their outer membranes vibrate abnormally when exposed to our comm wavelengths. In sufficient strength, it might even be harmful to them." Kapoor brought up a simulation showing the effect. "It's like their biology is sensitive to certain frequencies we use regularly." Ilara stared at the simulation, the beginnings of an idea forming. "Can we weaponize this? With our current resources?" "No," Kapoor shook his head. "We can't generate enough power or focus the frequencies properly. But Earth could, with warning and time to prepare." "The deep space array," Ilara said suddenly. "It's hardened against radiation and buried in the northern mountains. If it survived, we might be able to send a message to Earth." Governor Ramos, who had been listening silently, spoke up. "Even at light speed, that message would take 4.2 years to reach Earth. By then, we'll be gone." Ilara finished for her. "I know, but if these beams are moving through space systematically, Earth could be next. They need to know what they're facing and what might work against it." A day later, Ilara led a small team through the underground maintenance tunnels that connected the colony's major structures. With her were Diaz, Kapoor, and a communications specialist named Yasmin Okafor. Each carried what supplies they could manage and weapons salvaged from the colony's armory. The journey was grueling. Sections of the tunnels had collapsed, forcing them to surface briefly in areas patrolled by alien drones. Twice they had to hide as ground troops moved past, their movements eerily synchronized and purpose-driven. "They're heading to the water reclamation facility," Diaz whispered during one such encounter. "Systematic. They're securing resources one by one." After 18 hours of careful movement, they reached the northern mountains where the deep space array stood, a massive dish built into the mountainside, designed to communicate with Earth during the colony's early isolation. "It's intact," Okafor breathed, relief evident in her voice as they approached the facility, "and it has independent power systems." Inside, the array's control room was dusty from disuse but functional. Okafor began powering up systems while Kapoor prepared the data package. Everything they had learned about the Void Collective, their apparent weakness to certain frequencies, and a warning that Earth might be their next target. "How long until it's ready?" Ilara asked, watching the control room door while Diaz set up what defenses they could manage. 20 minutes to align the dish and charge the transmission systems," Okafor replied. "Then we can send." 18 minutes later, they heard them, the synchronized footsteps of alien troops approaching the facility. Their presence had been detected. "They're coming," Diaz said, checking his weapon. "We might have company before we can transmit." Ilara made a decision. "You 3 finish the transmission. I'll buy you time." Before anyone could argue, she took a position at the corridor entrance, weapon ready. The aliens breached the outer door just as Okafor called. "Transmission commencing. 90 seconds to completion." Ilara opened fire as the first alien appeared in the corridor. Her shots seemed to have minimal effect, merely slowing rather than stopping them. They returned fire with weapons that fired pulses of crackling energy. 60 seconds, Okafor called from behind her. An energy pulse hit the wall beside Ilara, showering her with debris. She felt a sharp pain as something cut her cheek, but kept firing. One alien fell, then another, but more kept coming. 30 seconds. Diaz joined her, adding his fire to hers. "We're not going to hold them. We just need to hold them long enough," Ilara replied, her voice steady despite the fear she felt. 10 seconds. 9. 8. An energy pulse struck Dias, throwing him backward. Ilara emptied her weapon at the advancing aliens, then drew her sidearm. 3, 2, 1. Transmission complete. The message was away, traveling at the speed of light toward Earth, carrying humanity's knowledge of the enemy and their one potential weakness. Whether anyone would be alive to greet Earth's response in 4 years was another question entirely. As alien troops poured into the control room, Ilara had one last thought. She hoped humanity would prove as adaptable and resourceful as it had always been throughout its history. They would need every bit of that ingenuity to face what was coming. Humanity's sword. 4 years and 3 months after the fall of Proxima b, something unprecedented appeared at the edge of the system. Unlike the silent, ominous arrival of the Void Collective, this entrance announced itself with a ripple of distorted spacetime that lit up sensors across the planet. The EFS Thunderchild emerged from the distortion, a vessel unlike anything humanity had constructed before. 2 kilometers in length, its obsidian hull was broken only by pulsing blue lines that traced its contours. Where the alien ships had been smooth and organic, the Thunderchild was angular, deliberate, and unmistakably human in its aggressive utilitarian design. In the ship's command center, Admiral Takeshi Yamamoto stood before the main view screen, studying the transformed Proxima b. Where once there had been human settlements and verdant agricultural domes, now strange alien structures twisted toward the sky like metallic thorns. The atmosphere had been altered, shrouded in yellowish clouds that reflected the red dwarf star's light in eerie patterns. Scans confirm extensive terraforming, reported Science Officer Dr. Eleanor Wright. Atmospheric composition is now 23% nitrogen, 40% carbon dioxide, 15% sulfur compounds, and trace elements, unsuitable for human life. Yamamoto nodded grimly. And the alien presence? Extensive, replied Tactical Officer Commander Jackson. We're detecting 83 vessels in orbit and approximately 200 ground installations. Their ships are already moving to intercept us. They're curious, Yamamoto observed. Good. Let's introduce ourselves properly. He turned to communications. Begin broadcasting on all frequencies. Full spectrum. Maximum power. Lieutenant Commander Navarro smiled tightly as she activated the ship's primary communication array, modified according to the specifications in Commander Chen's long-ago message. Broadcasting, sir. Covering all wavelengths from radio to upper microwave, focusing on the frequencies identified as disruptive. On the view screen, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The approaching alien vessels faltered, their smooth movements becoming erratic. Several smaller craft began to spin, as if their navigation systems had suddenly failed. They don't like that, Jackson remarked with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 confirmed effective, Yamamoto said. Prepare for Phase 2. Deploy resonators. From the Thunderchild's lateral bays, hundreds of small drones launched, each carrying a specialized transmitter designed to amplify and focus the disruptive frequencies. They spread out in a predetermined pattern, creating a web of overlapping fields around the human ship. Dr. Wright monitored the effect. The resonance is working. Their hulls are showing microscopic fractures. The vibrations are disrupting the molecular bonds in their exterior membranes. The largest alien vessel fired an energy beam, similar to the one that had destroyed Proxima's defenses years earlier. It struck the Thunderchild's shields, another innovation based on reverse-engineered alien technology, and dispersed in a flash of blue light. Shields holding at 82%, reported the defense officer, recalibrating to compensate for their energy signature. Return fire, Yamamoto ordered calmly. All batteries concentrated on their flagship. The Thunderchild's weaponry came to life. Railguns firing hypervelocity projectiles, plasma torpedoes streaking through the void, and precisely calibrated energy beams that matched the resonant frequency discovered in Commander Chen's data. The combined assault struck the alien flagship, its hull vibrating catastrophically before rupturing in multiple places at once. Their fleet is retreating to a defensive position around the planet. Jackson reported as the alien vessels pulled back, their movements no longer synchronized but scattered and individual, as if each ship was now acting independently. They've never faced resistance that could hurt them, Yamamoto observed, and now their coordination is breaking down. Deploy the ground teams. From the Thunderchild's ventral bays, dropships descended toward the planet's surface, each carrying soldiers equipped with resonator weapons and environmental suits designed to protect them from the altered atmosphere. Their targets were the primary communication nodes identified by the ship's scans, the centers that allowed the Void Collective to maintain their hive-like coordination. Colonel Maya Santos led the largest team, aiming for what had once been the colony's main settlement. Strange to be fighting to reclaim a world we can't even breathe on anymore, she remarked to her second-in-command as their dropship broke through the sulphurous clouds. First step is winning it back, Lieutenant Zhao replied. The terraforming engineers say they can reverse what these things did, given time. The dropship landed amid twisted alien structures, and the team deployed in practiced formation. The aliens reacted slowly, their usual coordination noticeably absent as the humans' resonator fields disrupted their communication. The fight was still brutal. The aliens were physically formidable and fought with desperate intensity when cornered, but they lacked the tactical cohesion that had overwhelmed Proxima's defenders years earlier. Command node secured, Santos reported 2 hours later, standing in a chamber filled with pulsing organic-looking technology. Initiating shutdown sequence. Across the planet, similar teams reported success. As each communication node went offline, the alien resistance grew more disorganized and ineffective. In orbit, the Thunderchild systematically disabled or destroyed the remaining alien vessels, which now fought as individuals rather than a collective force. 3 days after humanity's return to Proxima B, Admiral Yamamoto stood in what had once been the colony's main plaza. Though he wore an environmental suit, he could see the first signs of the terraforming reversal process beginning, as specialized machines processed the atmosphere, gradually shifting its composition back toward human breathable standards. A search team approached, led by a lieutenant whose suit was scorched from battle. "Sir, we found survivors," the lieutenant reported. "About 600 colonists in deep bunkers. They've been hiding and conducting guerrilla operations for years." "Chen?" Yamamoto asked immediately. The lieutenant shook his head. No sign of Commander Chen or her team. The survivors say they never returned from their mission to the communications array. Yamamoto nodded solemnly. They had expected as much, but confirmation still stung. Chen and her team had sacrificed themselves to send the warning that ultimately saved humanity. Without their discovery of the aliens' weakness, Earth might have faced the same fate as Proxima. Among the survivors was Dr. Kapoor's assistant, Dr. Lian Wei, who had continued his work studying the aliens. "They call themselves the Kryvax," she explained in a debriefing aboard the Thunderchild. "From what we've learned observing them, they've conquered dozens of worlds using the same method. Rapid, overwhelming force followed by atmospheric conversion. Why are they vulnerable to our communication frequencies?" Dr. Wright asked. "Evolution on their homeworld," Wei explained. "Their planet has an unusual magnetosphere that blocks certain wavelengths completely. They evolved without defenses against them because they never needed to. It's like an alien from a world without light suddenly encountering a flashbulb." Yamamoto considered this, a crucial weakness they never knew they had until they met us. "Exactly," Wei nodded. "They've likely never encountered a species that could fight back effectively once the initial assault was complete." 6 months later, the liberation of Proxima B was complete. The alien presence had been eliminated, and atmospheric processors were steadily making the world habitable for humans again. It would take years to fully restore, but the process had begun. In the partially rehabilitated plaza, now enclosed in a transparent dome with filtered air, a memorial was unveiled. At its center stood a sculpture of Commander Ilara Chen, Colonel Diaz, Dr. Kapoor, and Yasmin Okafor, the team whose sacrifice had given Earth the knowledge it needed to fight back. Admiral Yamamoto addressed the gathered colonists and crew members. The Void Collective, the Kryvax, believed their technological superiority made them invincible. What they didn't account for was humanity's greatest strength, our adaptability. Throughout our history, we have faced challenges and evolved to overcome them. Where the Kryvax saw only conquest, we found opportunity. Where they relied on overwhelming force, we created innovative solutions. He gestured to the Thunderchild visible through the dome's transparent ceiling. This ship represents what humanity does best. We learn, we adapt, and we return stronger than before. Commander Chen and her team gave us the key, but it was humanity's ingenuity that forged it into a sword. As the ceremony concluded, reports came in from long-range scouts. More Kryvax vessels had been detected in neighboring systems. This war was just beginning, but humanity now stood ready, no longer unprepared. The silent predators that had swept through space with impunity had finally encountered a species that could fight back. And on a dozen worlds across Earth's sphere of influence, shipyards were already building more vessels like the Thunderchild, each incorporating new lessons learned from this first victory. Humanity would not just survive this threat. They would overcome it, as they had overcome every challenge in their long history. This was humanity's moment to demonstrate to the galaxy what Earth had always known. When faced with seemingly impossible odds, humans didn't surrender. They innovated, they adapted, they survived, and they fought back.